Hey everybody, welcome back to Switch to Linux. So, it is late even for me. It is just shy of 3 in the morning, and usually I'm trying to wrap up my day right about now. But I really did want to get a video out, so hopefully it doesn't take forever to encode. Oh well. Anyway, if it does, that's fine. So I wanted to think about, what did I want to talk about today? I've done some good Linux distros. I did a couple other Linux opinion pieces. And it's like, I haven't done a whole lot in the news. Obviously, we skipped the tinfoil hat time this week, mostly due to the holiday. And next week we are back. I have a few neat tinfoil hat time ideas on the on there. But today I want to talk about a news article that came out today. Excuse me. And also a little plug that I'm looking for thoughts and opinions on something. So I am going to be working on developing a series of videos which is going to eventually be put separately under a separate site, although it will initially be posted here on this channel, for talking about privacy. Privacy and security mostly. So I do a lot of web security stuff. As a webmaster, I know how to secure and double check and make sure websites are up to date and secure. But also I do a lot of personal things like, just commonsensical things like being careful with Shoppers Club cards because of the data that can be pulled off of those. Or, just things like how to properly secure passwords, or just all sorts of weird things about privacy. And I want people's opinions. This is kind of my list where I'm running through what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to sort this all into a full curricula and all this kind of stuff. If you didn't know, I used to be a college professor, so I kind of get geeky and want to do some course type stuff here and there. So I would like to hear from you guys. What types of privacy and security issues should we talk about in an all-encompassing video series talking about security and privacy? So let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you on that. So today is something dealing in telecom and privacy. So we got internet and we have privacy. There's not going to be a whole lot of Linux in this talk today, but that's okay. We don't have to have Linux everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at a article that I found on Consumerist. So what's going on here is with the administration change, there was an act enabled in, I want to say it was 1996, that allows a new administration to overturn recently passed rules and laws. And so with the change of administration and some of the changes that were pushed through on net neutrality and some other privacy laws that were made just recently, a whole bunch of people, starting with this telecom organization, they all wanted to jump out and they wanted to challenge the rules and get them to change it. So who is behind this group? It is USTelecom. Of course, it is a Washington, D.C. based lobbyist group supported by the ISP companies. So, there's no ulterior motivations here. Enter big S, sarcasm. Obviously, these are people that they have a stake in not liking the rules and the policies that have been pushed out. And I gotta say, for the record, I really fully agree with about everything that I saw come through Wheeler's FCC. I didn't follow absolutely everything, but I really liked a lot of the things that had occurred in his tenure, and I hope that things are not massively reversed, although it wouldn't surprise me if they were. But I'm concerned with this. So I didn't want to just read this article at the Consumerist here, as much as I enjoy the Consumerist and that big fluffy cat. Kitty. Oh, there's a kitty wants to come say hi. Should we do a kitty cameo? Come here. Oh, come here. Come here, you. All right, here we go. We got a kitty cameo. She is not happy about this. I'm going to transition quickly. There you go. This is my kitty that does not like being around a whole lot of people. So anyway, here's a kitty cameo. Yep. All right, let's go back to the other kitty now. All right. So what's going on here is The article is really discussing how they're trying to overturn the privacy rules. And they say here eventually gut net neutrality. I think that this is kind of added in. I read this entire opinion order. I didn't see any specific complete direct references to net neutrality. But if we have a chance, maybe we'll talk about that. I just don't want this video to go too long, because if it's over like 20 minutes, it's going to take me forever to encode. And I would actually like to sleep tonight, maybe. So without any further ado, what we're going to do is we're actually going to dig through the actual document that was sent out. And so here we have the actual order that was sent out, like the petition for reconsideration by United States Telecom Association, subset / we have absolutely no opinion, or yeah, right, never mind. That's just a lie. All right. So we're going to read through this. Basically, this is a petition for reconsideration that they push forward to the FCC, and they're basically wanting to say, hey, we want to challenge these things and we want to overturn. Primarily, they are focused on the privacy order. So what this is here is back when all the net neutrality discussions were going on, and understand that even what you saw reported in the media, a lot of times they were starting to bungle the meaning of net neutrality, and frequently when I heard somebody talking about it, it ended up being kind of the opposite of what net neutrality actually is. So let me explain to you real quick what net neutrality is. So net neutrality at its base says that an ISP may not throttle the data to any individual connection based upon where that connection is. Now, there's a huge desire for them to do that because every ISP is linked into their own streaming systems and whatnot. And so if you happen to have Comcast or Time Warner, who may sell outside separate streaming systems, they're mad at people wanting to stream things on Netflix or on Hulu because they don't have a financial stake there. Actually, I think Comcast has some connection with Hulu, if I remember correctly, but not Netflix. And so what they would want to do is, if the net neutrality went away, they would want to throttle YouTube or Netflix or maybe even Amazon Prime, unless somebody, didn't matter who, but somebody paid them more to open the channel back up. That's what net neutrality was about. So what we need is a net neutrality who maintains that same definition that says that an internet company, an ISP, may not throttle data based upon the site. Of course, you heard all sorts of arguments. Well, we should download the bad sites. Well, now you have a subjective opinion as to what you call a bad site. If Comcast calls Netflix bad, now we have a problem. And so that's really what is at stake in all of this. So in the middle of this entire discussion, they had to look at how internet was classified. And what they ended up doing is, I want to say this happened in 2015, is they classified the internet as an open, what is the term? They use the term here, I'm forgetting the exact term, a common carrier service. So what a common carrier service means is that the service is being provided across equal data lines. Things like a phone, just a basic landline phone would be a common carrier service. And power in many instances is a common carrier service. Basic utilities frequently is a common carrier service, meaning that multiple people may provide services through the lines that are carried on a common route. And what they did is they redefined the internet to say it is a common carrier item, which allowed it to hit the same level of regulation as data on phone calls, data on utility maintenance and whatever else. And that's really what they're trying to do, is they're trying to say, no, this is a problematic thing. And so let's have a look at some of this. And I read this document. It's 25 pages, double-spaced. It shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes to read, and I encourage everybody to read this. So you can actually find this on the Consumerist Article, which I closed the page. But if you go to Consumerist Article today and you look for USTelecom in the search bar at the top, you'll find this article. They have the PDF directly linked. And I don't know, you can probably find this on the USTelecom site as well, which I want to say was ustelecom.org, but I'm not completely sure. I'll look that up and also put that in the description below. And if there's a hard link to this somewhere, I'll put a hard link to this document. But you should read this document and seek to understand it. So we're going to go through and look at a few things. I don't think we're going to cover all of it, just in the interest of time. We're already 10 minutes in, and I kind of want to wrap this up before 30 minutes. So first, let's have a quick look here. There is so much garbage in here. It's kind of crazy. So what they're saying here at first is they're saying that by redefining broadband internet as a common carrier service, like they don't like that because it means that they have their regulation of it is stricter. Now, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of regulation, but I really think that where we stand with the internet and the internet regulation right now is actually a pretty good thing. All right, so right now he said they say this should ensure technological neutrality and avoid consumer confusion by harmonizing its privacy regimen with that of the FTC, under which most participants in the internet ecosystem operate. Okay, so in other words, what they're trying to say is we want the data that an ISP collects as you are browsing the internet. We want the data that the ISP collects to be as open and accessible as the data on Google and Facebook. And they're saying that it's confusing because this is a different, this is something that's operating in a different ecosystem. And I'm going to say that these are so different. My ISP has data that is so different from what Google and Facebook and Microsoft collect, because the ISP is where I go from my root computer to log into the system. And then from there, I choose which websites I want to go on. Okay? And that's exactly why they defined it as a common carrier service. Because it is that portal, it is that access that goes into it. And that's exactly what we need to look at. Okay, so then what happens is once you get in there, now I can decide, do I want to go to Google or do I want to go to Facebook? And what they're saying is, the internet, like the ISP, is not an altogether different ecosystem than Google or Facebook, and I submit it is totally different. It is completely different for that basic order. All right, so the next part, let's see. So they say that this order, they're referring to this as the order, as this new privacy order. They're saying it is arbitrary and capricious in a number of respects, but there are two basic errors. Okay, and both of these errors are like garbage. He's like, this is bad, okay? First, on several critical issues, the order dispenses with any cost-benefit analysis. It treats even the most ephemeral privacy interests as though it had indefinite weight and simply disregards the economic cost of foreclosing productive uses of information. In other words, we want to be able to use every bit of data that we have on these people, and you are preventing us from using it. So what happened is, in this order, they were not excluded from using data, but the data could only be used if it was specifically opted in. And that's what drives them crazy, because these businesses, the telecom companies, they do not like opt-in. They do not like opt-in, because if it's opt-out, nobody goes over that barrier. If it's opt-in, nobody goes over the barrier. And that's the problem, is it's that opt barrier that people are trying to go through. And that's the thing that's bothering them. So, in other words, they say, for example, subject to ISP's burdensome opt-in regimen for marketing uses of all web browsing information on theory that all such information is equally sensitive. See, and that's the thing, is I want the data that's going through there to be private data. Okay, if some government wants to subpoena it and have a look, hey, have at it. Okay, under, of course, proper jurisdictionary law with proper evidence. I'm not saying, I'm not here to make an argument on that one way or the other, I guess is the best way to say that, because I don't want to go into all of that. Okay, but To say that the ISP can now collect all of that data and use that for marketing, ads, targeting, selling the data, that is the part I have a problem with, but that's exactly what they want. Okay, so in contrast, under the FCC's regimen, all other internet companies enjoy a much greater use of flexibility of web browsing data, except where the underlying matter is sensitive. Translation: Facebook can use any data that's done on Facebook, but Comcast and Time Warner Cable, they cannot use any data that people do on the internet. Well, that's completely night and day, because when I get on my computer and I'm just simply have access to the web, I can choose where I go. If I choose to go to Facebook and I know that Facebook collects all that data and uses it in any way they see fit, that's my prerogative to go to Facebook or not go to Facebook. But that is precisely why the internet is labeled as a common carrier service, because it is an open access that opens everything up. Now, what they're trying to say is that other companies have much greater flexibility in the web browsing data. Well, again, if you use Google, you better believe Google is collecting all of that information and putting it in a big file about you. That's why I use Start Page. All right. So basically, they're saying that they do not like these opt-in requirements. They think it's a huge problematic thing, and they want to get that stuff taken away. Now, the second, this is a fascinating sentence. I had to read this sentence multiple times to understand exactly what they were trying to say, and I think I have it now. But you gotta love this sentence. I'll just leave it at that. Second, the order ignores the record facts when it predicates this scheme of asymmetric regulation on the premise that ISPs are nearly omniscient and have greater visibility into consumer data than other internet companies, okay, than any other internet company. Okay, so what they're basically saying is that the common service platform was utilized because an ISP has a greater idea to see what I'm looking up and what I'm doing on the internet. Now, they say in this report here that, or in this petition, this premise is false. Okay, that is the biggest stinking pile of dog crap that is in here. This one sentence right here highlighted now, this premise is false. That is so garbage. That is so garbage. Because in reality, the ISP knows more about your search habits than even Google does. Because I can go onto my ISP and I can go onto the Google and I can search. Now, here is where they're making their argument. And let me break this down for you. Okay, and I think they have it here. Okay, so given the recent rise of encryption and multiple ISP connections per user, any given ISP has rapidly declining visibility into the detail of consumers' internet usage, and in some respects, less visibility than leading social media platforms, search engines, and data brokers. Okay, this is a gray thread. There is a lot of truth in here, and there is a lot of error in here. First, let's look at the encryption. Okay, so what they're talking about here is if you look at your browser URL and you see HTTPS, or depending on your browser, you might see a green lock up there in the corner by the address bar, that means that you're properly connected. You're on an HTTPS connection. So what that means is that the data transferring back and forth between the website and your computer, the ISP cannot see. But what the ISP can see is what website you are on. So if I am at joespizzaplace.com and joespizzaplace.com has an encrypted site and they're on HTTPS, my ISP knows I'm on joespizza.com. Okay, and if there happens to be a joespizza.com, which I just totally made that up, they're probably going to get some traffic off of this. Awesome. Send me a free pie, you know. So anyway, if they are using the HTTPS protocol, my ISP can still see that I'm on the pizza place. And if I have the same thing with Domino's and the same thing at Pizza Hut, my ISP can look at that data and go, this guy likes pizza. So now we're going to start forcing pop-ups on pizza, That's the type of thing. Now, if Joe's Pizza Place.com does not have HTTPS, the ISP can see not only am I on Joe's Pizza Place, but they can actually see the packets of data that I'm sending and then see what interaction I'm actually having. Now, this is becoming more significant because one of the ways that Google is now, as of this year, starting to give page rankings on websites based upon HTTPS protocols. So if your site has HTTPS, it will rank higher than an equivalent site without HTTPS. And to accompany that trend, both Google Chrome and Firefox are starting to implement a much more clear and transparent way of telling if the data is being delivered on an HTTPS protocol. And so that's becoming a more important thing. So when they say the encryption, the rise of encryption, this is actually kind of a false flag because they can still see what website you're on. They simply can't see the data you're transferring back and forth. So they can tell them on Facebook, but really only Facebook can see what data is going back and forth. So that's kind of the difference there. Now, this next thing they bring up is multiple ISP connections per user. This, I think, is a fallacy, but you let me know because I don't know for sure. I can tell you for me, I do not connect to multiple ISPs. Like, are they writing these rules for like 18-year-old kids that meander down the street and connect to every hotspot Wi-Fi connection they find? They have their phone on the default settings where it automatically connects to every Wi-Fi signal. That is insane. Please let me know if people actually do that. I know it's in theory possible, but I work out of this home office where I have high-speed internet, and so I'm pretty much ubiquitously connected here. But if I go out of my home office, I generally just use the internet that's on my phone. If I'm taking my computer out to a coffee shop, I don't connect to the coffee shop's Wi-Fi under most cases. What I connect to is I connect to my cell phone's Wi-Fi. So my cell phone is an ISP and my main home ISP is an ISP. So now we have two different ISPs. I'm not connected to a whole lot more than this, but you let me know. Is this really a valid argument or not? All right. So any given ISP has rapidly declining visibility and details of internet customers' internet usage. I think that again, this is partially true and partially false because they can still see which websites you're on. They just can't see the packets of data going back and forth, and that is a very important distinction. Okay, and then finally, in some respects, less visibility than leading social media platforms, search engines, and data brokers. Again, that is probably the part about this sentence that is the most true. Truly, Facebook knows more about you and Google knows more about you than many other entities do if you use those services. And that's why I don't. That's why I generally prefer to use Start Page. Now, primarily I use Start Page because I get the similar Google results. The page is as clean as Google, and that's why I don't use DuckDuckGo, as it's so ugly. Everything merges together on DuckDuckGo. If they added a decent style sheet, I'd probably use it. But it's so horrible, I can't stand it. But they, in theory, in DuckDuckGo and Start Page, they allegedly, and I kind of believe them, they don't keep track of the data that they're using. They use the HTTPS protocol. You can set a cookie on your browser on Start Page, or at least you could on IXQuick. I'm pretty sure Start Page is the same parent company, to save settings on your browser if you want to do that. So that's an option. So basically, they say here, all internet companies see the same types of customer data from different angles, and each has different advantages and limitations in the use of that data. Okay, this is not entirely true. Not all companies see the same types of customer data. The ISP, I argue, sees a lot more. Now, the individual sites, your Facebook and your Google, they will see more individual details, but the ISP sees the bigger picture. And the biggest and scariest part for me is if the bigger picture of the ISP were to unite under a third-party clause with a smaller picture of a Google or a Facebook, now we have some mass data that is much, much scarier. And maybe I might need to grab my tinfoil hat if I keep going down that line, but that's something to think about. All right, let's see. So basically, they're of course here. They've set up their I'm forgetting the name of my logical fallacies here. It's about 3:12 in the morning now, so it's getting pretty early for me. All right, but basically they've set this guy up. Maybe I'll call it the straw man argument. They set up the straw man, and now they want to attack that straw man right here. The order identifies no sound basis, and there is none for treating ISPs differently than other internet actors, or for hamstringing them with putting non-sensitive customer data to productive use. I don't want my ISP to put my data to productive use. See, and that's kind of that fallacy. We've been pushing for so long this whole entire concept of more relevant ads, more relevant ads, more relevant ads. I was never asked if I wanted relevant ads, because I don't. In fact, you want to talk to me about what ad I want to see? Because I don't generally run ad blockers, okay? I generally don't. A relevant ad, like an ad I don't mind seeing, is an ad that is related to a video I'm watching. You start feeding me something based upon some search result that I looked up 3 days ago, I'm going to start getting mad. But if you show me, if I'm load up, for example, I've been working on building this computer here, so I've been looking up video cards, I've been looking up processors, I've been looking up all sorts of neat stuff, and I don't mind if I'm looking up a comparative video between different graphics cards and I see a commercial for graphics cards. Cool, that's fine, whatever, I don't care. Maybe they'll even teach me about a product I didn't even cross my radar. That's cool. But I don't want, the reason I stopped using Google like 3 or 4 years ago was I was looked on Amsoil's website to get data for a client, and all I saw for the next 2 weeks were Amsoil's ads. I don't care if Amsoil is the best oil in the market. I will not put Amsoil in my car because of how heavily they marketed on me simply because I went to their website a couple of times. That's the type of thing that pisses me off. All right. So there is a whole lot of stuff in here. I didn't even really get to the arguments. That was the introduction. And I hope that introduction whets your appetite to go download this 25-page argument and read it, and maybe get a hold of somebody up there in your state, your senators, your congresspeople, to say, hey, we think that everything's good. We do not need this telecom company who has a vested interest in the ISPs from opening things up and collecting even more of our data. Because you take the data they have, merge it with the data that Facebook and Google and Microsoft have, now we have a very scary Minority Report looking world. And I'm going to have to get the hat if I keep going. So we better wrap up this video pretty quick. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought about this format here. Again, I will put the original article from Consumerist. I will put, if I can find it, I will put this article down there, and I will also put the USTelecom website down in the comments. So let me know what you thought, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.